Take a look at this map of Poland. It's from a few weeks ago, and each color shows us where one of the two parties won in the last election. What's interesting is that the differences aren't where they usually are. Sure, the typical rural versus urban difference exists. Rural is a hard word to say, huh? But another key one does too, one that follows almost exactly the old imperial border that once divided the Polish lands within the German Empire to those under the control of Russia and Austria. This isn't a unique case to Poland. Europe, with its millennia-long history, has a lot of these. To use another almost identical example, Romania recently had its presidential election, and the party split follows once again the old border of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Germany's Berlin Wall fell decades ago, but the East-West divide is still evident, not only in electoral results, but in a ton of economic and social indicators. So in this video, we are going to find out about a few of these phantom border examples in Europe. First of all, in case you don't know, what is a phantom border? Or at least, what's the definition of it? A phantom border, or Phantomgrenz in German, is like an invisible line left behind by an old political border that doesn't exist anymore, but still shapes how people live, vote, or think on either side. The German origin of the name makes sense because it's so evident there, either with the East-West divide throughout the country, but also inside Berlin. The map of tram lines in the city shows this, with the lines only existing in the east because the west had replaced theirs in favor of buses. A satellite picture of the city at night also shows the difference between the types of streetlights that were used and still last up to today, with the east using more yellow lights and the west more white. Even though these countries or regions are now united on paper, you can still spot the place where those old dividing lines used to be. Not every former border turns into a phantom one. It's more likely when the border existed for a long time, when it was hard to cross, when it ended relatively recently, or separated places that were run very differently. So let's go through 5 of those examples that I think cover all the bases for these cases. We're going to look at Poland, Romania, Germany, Italy, and Belgium. Poland is the poster child for phantom borders. In fact, it's so iconic in this respect that you could probably chart all Polish election results without knowing the history and still end up accidentally drawing the outlines of the 19th century empires that used to control it. Here is a history crash course. Between the late 18th century and World War I, Poland didn't exist as a state. It was instead partitioned 3 times by its hungry neighbors, one of them actually Hungary because it was Austria-Hungary. The other 2 were Russia and then Prussia, later Germany. Each part was absorbed into its respective empire and governed accordingly for more than a century. It's a long time for institutions, education systems, religious structures, and even postal services to leave their mark. If you fast forward to modern times, despite reunification and decades of being one country, again, voting patterns in Poland still reflect those old imperial divisions. The former Galician-Austrian zone in the south tends to support more centrist parties, the Russian zone in the east leans conservative and more traditionalist, and the Prussian or German zone in the west seems to be more pro-European and liberal. It's like people still subconsciously think that they're living under different empires. It's weird and kind of impressive. It's a reminder that political cultures don't just reset because someone redraws the lines, even if 100 years have gone by. Romania has a similar story. It too was historically divided between empires. The eastern region of Moldova and the southern region of Wallachia were under Ottoman influence for centuries, then becoming independent, while Transylvania belonged to the vampires. No, it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. These areas were only united into modern Romania in stages, culminating in the early 20th century, but culturally and institutionally, they came from very different places. And today, these differences haven't completely melted away. I'm melting a little bit from how warm it is right now. In national elections, voting preferences still tend to fall along the lines of those old imperial divisions. Transylvania, with its Austro-Hungarian legacy of more robust local governance and infrastructure, often leads towards liberal, reformist, or pro-European parties. After all, a good amount of ethnic Hungarians still live there today. Meanwhile, Moldavia and Wallachia, shaped by different historical trajectories and long-standing socioeconomic challenges, often vote for more conservative and populist candidates. And the divide isn't just political either. It pops up in attitude towards corruption, trust in public institutions, even how people view the state itself. People in Transylvania tend to expect more from the government because they've historically been used to, well, having a functioning one. In contrast, in the East, expectations are lower and skepticism towards politics runs deeper. You can still feel the ghost of empires in other ways too, like architecture or road quality. So next time you're road tripping through Romania and suddenly the roads get weirdly better or worse, don't blame your GPS, you can blame the Habsburgs or the Ottomans. And then we get to the origin of the word, which is Germany. After all, the Berlin Wall fell in 1989. Germany was reunified in 1990, and yet the divide between East and West Germany is still stubbornly visible in economic indicators, political preferences, even birth rates. For over 40 years, East Germany was a socialist state under Soviet influence, while the West was a capitalist democracy aligned with the West. These weren't just ideological differences. They were systems that shaped education, work, travel, even what brands of chocolate you could buy. A fun fact, East Germans were deprived from eating Kinder. That's gotta leave some type of psychological scar. Even now, more than 3 decades later, wage levels are still lower in the East. Infrastructure has been modernized, but economic development lags behind. Many young people move west for better job prospects. Immigration is aimed at the West too, because all the jobs are there. Politically, the divide shows up clearly in elections. Right-wing populist parties tend to perform slightly better in the East, or even significantly better, while mainstream centrist and left-leaning parties dominate the West. Some of this is generational and may fade away with time, but as of now, the ghost of the Berlin Wall still looms large without needing to be physically there. And then we move on to Italy, which is an amazing case of internal division that doesn't show up as a border on most modern maps, but might as well be one. Ever since Italy was unified in the 19th century, there's been a persistent divide between the North and the South. It's interesting because there wasn't one North and one South before. It was a large number of different states, but northern ones were similar among themselves, and as were the Souths. The North industrialized rapidly. It became richer, more urbanized, and economically integrated with Central Europe. But the South, historically more rural and agricultural, lagged behind, and despite a lot of investment, that divide hasn't really closed. Some people refer to the North as another country. There's even some political parties that have historically advocated for the North's independence and secession from the rest of Italy. Phantom borders are shown in GDP per capita, unemployment, infrastructure quality, and of course voting behavior. So even though Italy is one of Europe's most romanticized countries, maybe because we're all such big fans of their food, internally it's more like a tense marriage where each partner has a very different idea of what is for dinner. And then we have Belgium, the only country where a political deadlock lasted for 541 days. Belgium is officially a federal state with 3 regions: Flanders, which speaks Dutch, Wallonia, which speaks French, and Brussels. The linguistic and cultural divide dates back a long time. It's not just a phantom border, it's almost like a real one. Arguably, this is because Belgium was only created in 1830. It's a pretty recent country. Before that, the territory was part of the southern Netherlands and partly a Habsburg domain, even being ruled by the Dutch directly for some time. It's such a recent country that the previous historical divides are still there. Politics, media, education, even sports team are mostly separated by language lines. Some people in Wallonia want to join France, some people in Flanders want to be independent or join the Netherlands. It's just a drastic division between the two countries because of those old medieval cultural borders. So those are some of Europe's phantom borders and how they still affect the continent and its countries today. It reminds us that geography is more than physical space. History shapes how people live, think, vote. When borders move or disappear, they don't take everything with them. If you like this video, remember to subscribe. I really want to reach 900,000 subscribers and we're almost there. So you could be the one that makes that number go up. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you next time for more general knowledge. I don't have a moment cup today. I have the Lord of the Rings mug from the Prancing Pony. By the way, guys, you might have noticed that I have a new map on the wall behind me. It was sent to me by Enjoy the Wood. They're this great company that makes these maps that you can put on your wall. So here's a video of me unboxing and putting this great map together. You can get yours too through the link in the description.